Welcome to another exciting adventure. Today we're working on our mine. First, the mine is going to be on the corner of the table so that kids can look in from both sides, see each other, and see the entire mine. It also helps with lighting. It won't make it look nearly as dark and you can see more detail. Makes it a little more exciting. We may even do a little really cool things later on. So, to get our corner, handy dandy measuring, and we're going to go 15 inches on either side. So it is 15 inches and 15 inches. That gives us our center line that the track will go down. Now we have these arches that we 3D printed with a little hole in top for the lights. Not sure how many to make, so we made 6 of them. That should be good. And we'll space these along here and see how that does. These are just under 4 inches, so we're going to do the second set of lines 4 inches apart. Double check, put this in here, it's inside our lines, all lined up in the middle. Now we just need to cut it. We'll make 2 of these. Action! Okay. In this case, I'm actually doing something a little different. I made 2 pieces. Let's go in the corner. We'll have our supports. And we'll do the top of the mine. Nice and big, easy to see through. It's not exactly the way a mine should be, but I grew up with the old cowboy movies, and that's the way the mines always were, so you could shoot the movies. You could always see around. Plenty of room. I have my center line set up so that I know where to put my little train track for the mine car. I think it'll turn out pretty good. And when we're done with it, we're going to build this, and then we're going to put it in the layout. That way we can have a little more freedom with what we're up to. And even though everything's measured out right, I wasn't too concerned about trying to make perfectly straight lines. Since it's a mine and I have everything too straight, it won't look right. If I move it around a little bit, change the angles around a little, that looks a little more realistic, and more importantly, it looks a lot more interesting. So hopefully when we're done, we'll have a mine here and then we'll just install it in the layout. Thank you. So a funny thing happened at the train depot today when we were hanging out with our friends. I made the mistake of bringing some of my components with me. You might recognize these as what's left over from the rafters that we had for the mine. Long story short, well, we kind of got a little carried away. And in this case, more hands helped out quite a bit. I have my rafters, 6 of them evenly spaced. The ones on the end I went ahead and cut off. And then we went ahead and spray painted it brown. And remember, we made these black on purpose so that anything that bleeds through will give it a two-tone appearance and make it look a little cooler. And we were able to drill the holes for our lights. So, at this point, I have my center line here. We got plaster that I was also able to pick up at the train depot. We're ready to put down some train track and kind of start smoothing it out a little bit, see how it looks. Now that we have the mine mostly laid out, it's time to start building the walls. As you see here, I got one of the walls, the long wall, formed out already. And all the contours and that are in it, all that rough texturing that makes it look like a mine wall like you'd expect, like it's rocks in that. What I did was I took aluminum foil and I crumbled it up and I put it on the inside and I laid plaster cloth over the outside of it, sprayed it down, and just kind of worked it in a little bit, not trying to get into all the nooks and crannies, but just trying to give it a texture. And then we'll do more of the forming than that on the inside later. Once this is fully dried, we'll just remove this mold, take the aluminum foil off, and then reattach it. And then pretty it up a little bit.
Why are we doing the commentary again?
Well, glad you asked. We're doing it because we live in a pretty busy house and Grandpa was visiting and it was pretty noisy. So I figured at this point we're going to try something new because Linus wanted to experiment with doing voiceovers. So here I am installing the aluminum foil plates, just kind of giving an idea how we're doing it. And then Linus is going to dub us over and we're going to try that out and see how well that works out. I'm pretty excited every time Linus comes up with something new for the video. I taped the edge just to hold it and I kind of press in there to make a good seam. And then it's just crinkling it all up there. See how we do that?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll tape down that side. Well, maybe we should have called this a crinkling mine, huh?
Mm-hmm.
The object is basically just to not have a flat surface wall. I want a nice wall that's interesting. And I figure it's really cool about this because we're going to have two panels that we can actually remove afterwards. Here we go with the plaster. If you've noticed, we're doing some, I'm jumping through it a little bit. We had a lot of video footage, didn't we, buddy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so what I'm doing here is I'm just cutting ahead so you kind of get the highlights of it all. That's plaster cloth. When I was a kid and I broke my leg, they used to wrap my leg up with that so I could, that was my cast. Nowadays they have that kind of boot that they put on you. But you can still buy this in a lot of the hobby shops. And that's, it's like a cloth with plaster in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I cut off the piece, lay it down into place, kind of line up the one edge. And we jumped ahead. I have all the pieces in there. Now I'm spritzing it with water. And that will activate the plaster in it. And I'm kind of making a crease on both sides with my fingers. And then I'm running my fingers over it to kind of get it to go into the hills and valleys. I'm not looking for a great deal of detail. We're just going for some contouring. How's that? Pretty cool?
Mm-hmm.
Now to remove this, since the plaster cloth kind of adheres a little bit to the wood, this is the tool I use, kind of like a little spatula, for my 3D printer for separating the plastic pieces from the print table. I'm just going to slide it in here, nice and thin. Just do a little sawing motion a little bit. It's okay if we damage it a little bit because this area is not going to matter too much, but it'll just separate it We do the same thing to the other side. Kind of get it in there and work it around a little bit. Now we can, I don't know why I keep saying we, it's not like there's a mouse in my pocket or anything. This separator. An aluminum foil. And here is a nice contoured wall. All kinds of really nice shapes in that. And when we paint it up, it'll look really good. Here, it's time to pour some plaster. Because the plaster cloth, well, that's just it. It has holes all through it. It looks kind of like a checkered pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a mesh.
Yep.
And we'd put a second one on the back side to kind of make it a little more sturdy. But here we're pouring in regular plaster, and I'm putting the water in there, and I'm actually making it really thin and soupy. I mean, don't drink it. That'd be bad. Ew.
Ugh.
So we get it really soupy,
Mm-hmm.
and you're gonna see in a minute after we mix it up real well, we'll pour it in there, and it'll just go right into the valleys. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff right there.
Yep.
Now I'm kind of hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Are you hungry?
Yep.
We don't want to eat that though, do we?
No, that is very, very dangerous.
Yeah. I think we should get something to eat after this. Okay. Make sure everything's mixed up real well. Yes, it's as exciting as it looks. I had a lot of fun doing it, but I really didn't want to bore people with all the footage that we took. Alright, so pouring it in, nice and easy, just kind of moving it around. Trying to make sure it doesn't pour out on my lap like a Hot Pocket or something. Okay. Now it's just getting your fingers in there, and it's pushing it in, moving it around, and I continue this until it starts to actually set. And it sets fairly fast, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Now that we're done with both pieces and putting some texturing on the inside, just smearing it around. I just smeared it around until it started getting dry and kind of lumpy, and I'm just looking for a lot of variety. I don't want any particular line to catch your eye. I want it to look interesting, very chaotic, like it was actually shoveled out. I didn't go so far as to make little marks in there from the shovels and picks. Wasn't really what I was going for. I also put a second layer of plaster cloth on the back. You can see here a little bit, I'll clean up later, where some of what I put on the other side is dripped through. But the second layer gave it the strength it needed to support all this extra here. And we're going to let that dry. Our other piece is already done. Now I got a bowl left with plaster in it. Get rid of the plaster. This part's fairly easy, it's flexible. Now that it's dried, I can just break it up. But the bowl itself, well, the bowl is made so that I can just flex it, break up the plaster, just scoop up the rest with my fingers. Clean it up real nice, be easy. Be ready for the next one.